We're at the 2021 Dallas Europa Games, and I'm here with Chad
McCrary.
All right, so, Chad just got done competing at his first pro show, his pro debut. So how do you feel about that?
Well, it was an amazing experience. I thought for the longest, I wasn't going to get my pro, and I did. And, I wanted to do the Europa, see how it would work out and how things would go. And I had a good time. I got second place. I'm not disgruntled about that. It was my first pro show. I brought one of the best packages I've ever brought. So to me, that's winning, and to certainly get to the IFBB pro level has been just absolutely amazing. And I know you've worked a lot behind the scenes because of the completes and the incompletes with the spinal cords, and a lot of people just don't know. And then this last show they awarded the overall incomplete and the overall complete. So to get my pro was just, a dream come true. And to do the Europa, it was an honor, and I appreciate everything that you've done, in the sport of bodybuilding.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize you've been at this a long time. Chad brought phenomenal conditioning. How long have you been competing?
Since 2003. So, however long that is, almost 20 years.
Yeah, many moons. So, people see that you're in a wheelchair. So, what happened? Why are you in the wheelchair?
Well, I did my first bodybuilding show in 2003, and I didn't really know what I was doing. It was before my accident, and it was at the Heart of Texas. Prince Harrison was the promoter over there, and a buddy of mine, Jeff, talked me into doing the show, and I bulked up to 230 pounds, and I cut it down to 90 pounds. And I was the smallest guy in the heavyweight class. So then I kind of realized, my enthusiasm far outweighed my genetics. So I was like, I want to do something different. So I started riding motocross, and some friends of mine were riding motocross, around town. And I went and bought a YZ250. I'd been riding about 6 months. And I was hitting some big jumps, 80 footers, 90 footers. We were in Plainville, Louisiana one day, and there's a triple. You have the first section, you leave from the middle section, and then you have the third section. Mm-hmm. And all day long, I wanted to triple this jump because I had been double singling it rather than going all the way, which was about 120 feet. And the first time I tried, I came around the corner going up into the jump, and my back wheel wouldn't hook up. After about the third try, I felt like I got enough hookup with the back tire, and I left the face of the jump, and I'm soaring through the air, and I could see the middle section going under me. And when I looked up at my landing, I knew I was going to be short. I could tell by my trajectory. And I'm thinking this all, 100 miles a minute in my head. Can I jump off? Because I was literally 20 feet in the air up high. I'll jump off and surely break both legs, or I can just ride it out and see what the suspension will do. So this jump, a lot of jumps have rolling hilltops that are less forgiving, but this one had a steep apex. And when I came down, it landed on the frame. So the suspension never had a chance to do its job. It hit right hard just on the frame. And when it did, it just snapped, and I heard my back snap. And I saw this big bright flash of light. I still don't really know what that was. But it didn't break the bike, but it had enough energy that it still catapulted me off the bike like a rag doll about another 10, 20 feet. And I landed face first and just slid to a stop. And I thought that was it, so I started to pray. And I thought I was losing consciousness, and I wasn't. I could hear voices, familiar voices, and one of my buddies said, "Get up," and I tried to get up, and my legs wouldn't respond. So being a paramedic, I knew I broke my back because I heard it snap, and the fact that my legs wouldn't respond, I knew I had compromised my neurological status. So I just laid back down. I could hear a helicopter in the background. They airlifted me to LSU. Had to wait a week for the swelling to go down. It was a T12 burst fracture, 142 pieces of the T12, and the spinal cord was torn about 95% in two. And after the operation, the neurologist, accompanied with two other neurologists, came to my room. You know, those kind of people, they're real blunt, they're to the point, and they should be. She said, Mr. McCrary, we feel like you're never gonna walk again. And I heard what she said, but I made her repeat it only to hear the same thing. And that was hard to swallow. Because I was thinking about my firefighter career, my career as a paramedic. I was newly married. All these things I'm thinking, you know, just such a life-changing event. And they shipped me back up to Texarkana for 92 days in in-house rehabilitation. And got some really good care there, man. So I get to go even come home for 92 days. But the fact that I had 5% to work with, my nerves rerouted over the course of 6-8 years, and it got to where I could just stand, you know, wobbly, or take a few steps in a direction, which is, it's kind of dangerous because I risk falling. I don't want to break a hip or an arm, but that's how it happened. And when I was in the hospital, somebody brought me this magazine of these wheelchair bodybuilders. And I was like, that's a class? I was like, I think I can hold my own in that class. So that's when I started hitting a lot of shows here in Dallas. First place, first place, first place, first place. Arkansas State Championship, first place. And then 2008, you and I competed together for the first time in nationals. And I took second place in the heavy division, which I'm still a little ticked off about that.
So before we get into that, so you started competing in 2003, not in the wheelchair, and then you had your motocross accident, which you jumped 120 feet, and then he didn't complete it, and did it snap your motorcycle in half?
It actually didn't. That YZ has a alloy metal frame.
Okay, so
I mean, it's tough as nails.
So it hit, and so it threw you off. How far did it throw you off?
So when I hit, it had enough inertia, even though it came to a dead stop, and it snapped my back. It caused recoil, and it propelled me, just ragdolled me through the air about another 10, 15 feet.
So when you landed, is the impact is what broke your back?
No, so damage had already been done at the impact on landing.
Okay, so you landed, and then that's what broke your back and did the T12 burst.
Correct.
And then once that impacted, it threw you. How far did it throw you?
10, 15 feet, cartwheeled me through the air like a rag doll.
Okay, so when you landed, was you aware, or did you close your eyes, or did you black out?
I was honestly thinking, I could tell by my trajectory. I was like, this is gonna suck. I was like, it's not, you know, and all this is going through my mind 1,000 miles a minute. And when I hit, like I said, I heard it snap. It was just like breaking a piece of firewood or something, you know, over your knee.
Twig.
Like, pop. Yeah, and the weirdest thing though was this bright flash of light that went before my eyes. And I don't know what that was all about, but it was really strange and bizarre.
Okay, so once you hit, what year was that? What was the day when your accident occurred?
March 27th, 2005.
March 2007?
2005.
Oh, okay, March 7th, 2005.
Okay.
Oh, exact day, see? Cannot remember that. You'll always remember that first day. So in 2005, so you competed in 2003, competed in 2005. So did you ever feel sorry for yourself in the beginning?
I did, but I didn't stay there long. I knew better. You know, it's easy to get down and lose your positive mindset. And when I was in there, in rehab for 92 days, I was thinking, nobody had to tell me my career as a firefighter was over. Nobody had to tell me my career as a paramedic was over. I already knew that. Nobody came to me and said that, but I knew it. And one day, I asked if I could go out, if they'd push me out into the courtyard. It was a beautiful day, and I sat there and I prayed. And my passion's always been to help other people. Yeah, I'm a wheelchair bodybuilder, but my passion's always been in helping people. So I do speakings, I authored a book, and hopefully, people that see guys like us in the wheelchairs bringing these phenomenal packages sends a loud and clear message to people that, hey, if this guy can do it, why can't I do it?
Yeah, so March of 2005, you had your accident. March 7th, 2005, you had your accident. So when do you start having that vision of it's time to change?
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. When they rolled me out into the courtyard, it was beautiful, I was just sitting there. And I started praying, my passion was always to help people. And I was angry at first, even at God, even though I hate to admit that. I didn't turn my back on him, but I was angry. I was like, why would you take something away from somebody that loved to help people? And I'm not bragging, but I was good at being a paramedic. It clicked with me. I got it. I had several doctors that told me I should went to med school, which that's too much. I don't care anything about all that. But I was sitting out there in the courtyard, and it was just really nice. It was really peaceful. And all of a sudden, I just had this peace come over me that no matter what the outcome would be, because when you're in those situations like you were with your car wreck, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Oh, yeah.
But at that moment, it was like I had this, I'm very spiritual, I'm Christian. I just had this sensation come over me that no matter what, it's going to be okay. And then as time progressed, it became obvious that my calling was to reach out to people through speaking, through writing a book. And my old partner, Joe Fritz, he came to the house one day because he wanted a copy of the book, and I mentioned him in it because he was a great partner. He was the first partner I had on the ambulance, and he picked up a few copies, and he told me, he said, I know you miss being in the back of that truck and being a paramedic. He said, but you're in a position now to reach way more people than you ever could have from the back of that ambulance.
Exactly. So would you say from March 2005, it took you about a month, or when they pushed you out, when did they push you out of that time when you saw the awakening?
So I was there 92 days before I could even come home.
All right, a little over 3 months. That's when, was that moment? So 3 months, over 90 days, and then you started competing in 2008 as a wheelchair. Well, when did you start competing as a wheelchair?
2005.
2005. Oh yeah, that's right. 2005, you started competing?
6 short months after that accident, I was on stage.
Okay, so there we go. 2005, he had his accident. 3 months, he had his awakening. 6 months, he started competing. So you competed all this time in doing wheelchair bodybuilding. So then you decided to write a book or public speaking. Which one came first?
The speaking, and I felt that when it was placed on me. I don't know if you ever had something placed on you.
Yeah.
You feel it. At first, it scared me because I never felt anything like that.
Okay.
But I knew what it was, but I didn't want to do it. It's like, I don't want to get up in front of a bunch of people. I mean, it's different when you're a bodybuilder. You just get up, you hit your poses, and you're off the stage. But you're a speaker, and you know what it's like. All eyes are on you, and everybody's waiting on you, what you got to say next.
Exactly.
And if you get froze up, or you lose your mind, it can go bad real quick.
Exactly. So when did you start speaking, saying this is the time that I'm going to start pursuing this different avenue?
Okay, so God wouldn't leave me alone about that. I tried to outsleep it. I tried to faded out. I tried everything, but it was like the further I ran, the tighter that shirt collar got. Because I'll tell you this real quick, I'll keep it short. I had a chance to go to Rome in 2003, and I went to the Vatican, and I always wanted some rosary beads, and they had these cool rosary beads, right? So I grabbed them, I put them in my pocket, and we went to the St. Mary Cathedral, which over there, all the architectural structure is just absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend it. Went into the St. Mary's Chapel, which was built in the 14th century in honor of Mary. And I went in one of the side rooms and I took those beads out and I handed them to a priest, and he couldn't speak English, but he knew what I wanted. I wanted him to bless the beads. So he took those beads and he's speaking in Italian, and he's sprinkling them with holy water, and he anointed them with oil, and he handed them back to me. Well, I stuck them in my pocket, spent 3 or 4 more days in Rome, flew back to the States. 2 years later, I had my accident. And one day I was sitting there in my wheelchair, and it dawned on me. I was like, where are those beads? And I tore the house up looking for them. I was about to give up, and I found them. And I don't tell this story to too many people. It's kind of personal, but it is what it is, and this is what I experienced. I grabbed those beads and I held them in the palm of my hand, and I started to pray. And as I started to pray, I felt this warming sensation start from where the beads were in my hand. And it started to resonate up both arms, down my body, down my legs. It was the strangest thing I've ever felt. It was an energy unlike I've ever felt. And about 3 years after that, I told God, I said, I was bargaining with him. I said, if you'll restore my legs, then I'll carry your word. So that was the deal I made with him. And once I was able to stand briefly and walk short distances, I had to hold up on my end.
Gotcha.
And he wouldn't leave me alone. So I got with a friend of mine, created a website, got all these brochures. Nothing happened. And I was thinking, dude, you've been bugging me for 3 years to do this. And I went and spoke to my pastor, spoke to my director at work, and all of a sudden it was like the floodgates opened. And my first speaking was at the Rotary Club, which is small, only 10 people. I was so nervous, I don't even remember what I said. And
when was this? What's the time frame on this?
That was about 2015.
So 2015 is when you did your first speaking.
Yep. And it was a small little, nothing huge.
Gotcha.
But it just started getting bigger and bigger. My next speaking was at my hometown where I graduated in DCAB, like 600 people. Then the next gig I did was like 1,200 people, and the next one I did was like 1,500 people, and then COVID hit, and it just, I got to get back to the speaking, because that really just messed everything up, like it did for a lot of people.
Oh yeah. So what's your website?
Chad McCrary Inspires.
That's right, Chad McCrary Inspires.com. So you also wrote a book. So what's the book? And when did you write the book? And what is the book about? And how can people find the book?
Well, the book is called Answering the Call. It's on Amazon. All you gotta do is just type in my name or Answering the Call, and it'll pull it up. They've got me, but it's so weird. I got to look at it today. In my book, it's between Crocodile Dundee and Harriet Tubman, and I was like, that seems odd to put my book right next to those two, which, obviously Harriet Tubman was a major figure in what she did with the Underground Railroad, but I kind of got a kick out of that. So it's available on Amazon, and I work closely with the Dan and Christopher Reeve Foundation, and I donate a certain amount of dollars of every book sale to that organization to help with spinal cord research. You know, even though Christopher and Dana are gone, his son still runs it, and he looks just like Chris. So I started writing the book in about 2017, and it took an entire year. It was a nightmare, and I couldn't have done it without my boy Nick Scott. Shout out to Nick for helping me. It's kind of just short and sweet, but it basically encompasses, you know, a mindset, you know, of overcoming adversity. You don't even have to be in a wheelchair to have that mindset. People that are able-bodied people need that mindset. And, you know, I'm not telling you anything. Mindset is everything. You know, it's just like last night, you know, I took second place. I could have been very disgruntled about that, but I wasn't. I thought that was for my first pro show. I'm thrilled, you know.
You look phenomenal, you know, and it just shows you that, you know, you see these talents and how Chad is overcoming, and now, you know, he still does the bodybuilding, speaking, published author. So, answering the call, like, what was the vision of that title for your book?
So the reason I named it Answering the Call was I was a paramedic one time, and I had to answer a lot of calls. And then when the calling came to write the book, like I said, I ran from it. I didn't want to do it, but I answered that call also. So I thought that was a fitting title.
Definitely, it fits. You know, so it's like, for people that's watching this, how can they follow you? How can they find you?
I am on Facebook, Chad McCrary, IFBB Pro, and I am on Instagram, IFBB Pro Chad McCrary. And as I mentioned earlier, my website, you can just Google my name, Chad McCrary. It pulls up a whole list of things of Facebook, Instagram, and
or you can just see it on the video right here. Boom. But you heard it first. Chad's pro debut at the 2021 Dallas Europa Games. Phenomenal condition. One of the best IFBB pro wheelchair bodybuilders in the world. And Chad, thank you. It's been an honor. And congrats on everything.
Thank you, Nick, man. I appreciate everything you do. Yeah, everything. And I'll be competing again soon.
Oh, definitely. You'll see much more of Chad.
Yep.
So,